Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, founder and CEO at Riderflex. We hope you enjoy today's podcast. And as a reminder, please subscribe to the Riderflex show for updates on new episodes. And by the way, if you haven't already, check out the book we recently launched, The Riderflex Guide, Inspiring and Hiring, available for purchase on Amazon. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
Tony McDonald on the Riderflex podcast. How are you, sir?
Very good, Steve. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
And you as well. Thank you for the opportunity here.
You're in the cannabis industry, and we both live in Colorado, so I'm sure we know a lot of the same people because we've not only done recruiting and staffing for the cannabis industry, but I've had a shit ton of those folks on the podcast as well. And I actually worked as a consultant in the industry for a short time before I started Riderflex. I don't know if you remember Mindful, which was bought by Livewell a few years back.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did you know any of the guys that ran Mindful at all? Kevin Daly, Jeff White, Tom Regan?
No, I've only been in the industry, 4.5 years now.
Okay. So yeah, I dabbled in when it first got legal. I was a CPG executive for a long time, most of my career. And I ran an apparel company in Boulder and then did a furniture company in DC. And then when pot went legal in Colorado, I thought, man, maybe I want to try to get into that. And boy, me and you could talk about hours the way it was when it first got started, when it first went legal. Like, woo! I remember walking into my first conference meeting at a cannabis company, coming from the real world, and then walking into I'm sitting in the conference room, Tony. I thought the meeting started at 2. I'm the only one in here. So are we having a meeting today, or it was very loose. It was very loose, but
yeah, maybe early on. It probably predates my time.
Yes.
Talking about people though, perhaps you can appreciate this. I tell people, I say, the cannabis industry is a bit like the state of Colorado. Nobody's actually from here, right? They're pouring in from every place else because this industry, just like every other industry, needs managers and salespeople and shipping people and engineers and you name it, the whole gamut, right? And those people used to learn those skills at a CPG company like you did, or in the HVAC industry like I did, right? And or accounting firms, and those people all come piling in. That's what
it's gotten so much better, right? So much more professional and polished than it was when it first started. I know just from talking to people that it continues to get better and better and better. And guys like you have made it that way. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not sure it's coming from us. Here's what I've observed. The first time I was in one of these facilities in Denver was, at least 10 years ago. Probably 10 years ago, when I was with another a clean tech HVAC company that we were building, and I went to a facility. I remember I got invited out. These guys needed some air conditioning, and get out to this 1,500 square foot industrial slice out in Commerce City, right in some industrial park. And I go in there. There's a couple of guys sitting on a couch, right out of Boulder, and there's some plants in these big pots on the ground on a plastic sheet and some lights above, right? Okay, that was then. Okay, the people that we deal with now, you're dropping $5, 10, 15, 20, $30 million on one of these extremely sophisticated cultivation facilities, and I've yet to meet in my life stupid people who have that kind of money to throw around.
Exactly.
So these are very sophisticated people playing the big game.
Yes, it's changed. Light speed. Let me, before we continue to go down the cannabis road, talk to me a little bit about your early life. I'd like to know about where you grew up, your parents, maybe siblings. Can you give me some early stuff, and then we'll come back into the cannabis, Tony?
Sure. Yeah, it's here's a short version. I grew up in Iowa and Wisconsin. Farm country, suburban type stuff, or farm country in Iowa, And then, got out of high school, didn't have anything else to do, joined the Army. 4 days out of high school, went in, was a good soldier, went over to Germany, got picked up to go to West Point Prep School, did there and excelled. And I got to go to West Point, and I worked hard there and did very well. And that got me out to my ultimate goal, which was to live in Colorado. I'd grown up doing a bit of skiing in Wisconsin. And when you grow up skiing in Wisconsin, Iowa, you want to go to Colorado. And so I was able to make that dream come true with the posting out here to Fort Carson. And I served, a number of years there. And then I got out and went to business school, and then bopped around in the business world, banking, manufacturing, consulting, private equity, and then, then some entrepreneurial stuff, did this HVAC company. And then I had the right skills when this opportunity came along, and I'd known the guys who were on the board of this company previously, and I'd been on a previous board with them, and they brought me on. A few months later, the then CEO left and said, "Hey, you want to run it?" Okay.
Yeah. Did you have family in the military at all? Your dad or somebody, or what was your influence there?
No, I don't. Not at all. Really, nobody. Just kind of out of the. I don't know. I can only attribute it to Providence. Just out of the blue, boom. Hey, I think I'll join the Army. There was no money to go to college or anything like that.
Okay, what'd your folks do?
Well, my mom was, by and large, homemaker. Stepdad was, engineer for a variety of companies.
And real father? What? Give me the story.
Yeah, don't know.
Do you know who he is?
I got a name.
You ever met him?
No.
How old were you when you found out that your stepdad wasn't your real dad? And I'll tell you why I'm asking the question.
I don't know, 12 or 13, something like that. I kind of put all the dots together.
I was 20. I think I was 24. I was living in Tulsa, Oklahoma. My mom says, "Hey, I got to come see you and talk to you about something." I said, she lived in Oklahoma City at the time. And I said, okay, well, what do you mean? Can't we just talk on the phone? She goes, "No, I want to come see you and talk to you about it." And I was like, "Okay, all right, Mom, don't be weird, but yeah, okay, cool." So she drives up to Tulsa, and I was married to my first wife at the time. I think I had my first little boy. And she walks in and she's visiting. She's like, "Hey, I need to tell you." She goes, Keith's not your real dad. And I think it was time to tell you. And I was like, I remember sitting there. I'm like, what? Like, you're telling me this now? Like now? I called my dad, and I'm like, "Dad, you're not my real dad." It's just fucking balling and all kinds of shit. But that's why I was asking you, so we can relate. I can relate. Found him through one of those, I don't know, Ancestry. I did the DNA thing.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. Found him, died a year earlier. I was a year too late. Yeah. It was some sales guy my mom slept with when she was some sales guy traveling through town that she had a quick affair with, and that was it.
That was it. Wow.
Anyway, okay. Was your stepdad a good dude or okay?
Yeah, no, it was a good man. We're very fortunate to have him. So,
okay.
it worked out well.
And your West Point thing, you kind of cruised over that. I just want to say congratulations. That's a big deal. Isn't it an even bigger deal to get into the academy after you entered as an infantry person? Isn't it even harder to do that? Or correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, getting into coming in as a former enlisted guy, there's a path for that. It's pretty limited. Not a lot of people do that, but it's there's a path. Again, the Army runs a school called West Point Prep School, and I went there for a year, and I was one of these slow bloomers, right? I did terribly in high school and was late developing and all that, and then after a year in the service, I was ready, and I got that opportunity, and I hit it hard.
Good for you, man. Hey, congratulations. That's a wonderful thing. I want to ask you one more thing about the military real quick, and then we'll move on from it. You know what today is, right?
Mm-hmm.
From a military historical perspective.
Of course.
I just put out a post and I titled it, "Are we raising a nation of wimps?" and I challenged people in the post to just ask anybody under 30 what D-Day even is, or whether or not they can point out Normandy on a map and what the significance is, right? And then in the post, I said, and then after you ask them those two questions, ask them who the Kardashians are. I bet they know the answer to that. So for all the listeners, Tony and I are recording this on June 6th, 79th anniversary of D-Day. How many years were you in the service before you got out?
Well, 11 altogether. That included my time at West Point, though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for your service, sir. I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Sounds like in high school, then you had you were a little bit of a rebel, maybe. Had a little fun there, I think, maybe.
No, not really. Just
okay.
kind of a, I guess a slacker might be the better appropriate term. I was never much of a rebel. Again, I was just a late bloomer, right? And one of the great things about our system, our society and our system is that late bloomers can bloom late and
Yes.
do great things. Your life is not determined by a test you took at age 18.
Good line. I like that. That's a good line. Okay. So when you got out, like I said, you kind of went through your career there. Would you say your specialty function was sales and relationship and leadership, or before what functional did you have your expertise in before you made C-level? Would you call it sales and biz dev, or what would you call it?
Well, not initially. The military's, by and large, it's an operational organization, right? There's not a lot of selling going on. Not that doesn't happen there, but really what you do is you execute. You formulate plans and you carry them out, which is really an operational function, right? And so you're okay. You're going to go take that hill, or here's this objective. I was a cavalry officer, right? Cavalry does certain things, and so you're going to carry out these plans. So there's no real selling involved. It's about executing well. Now, of course, you get higher ranks and you're more in policy formulation and the like. But again, it's primarily an operations type organization. Okay. So when I got out of the service, I was fortunate. I was able to get into a Harvard B school.
Nice, congrats! That's another big win.
Thanks. Yeah, I had a great ride. I mean, joined the Army as a 17-year-old, high school laggard, and not long after I was going to Harvard. It was,
good for you. Hey, here's proof, listeners. You don't have to come from a trust fund, silver spoon family to make it to Harvard or go to West Point. That you can do it through the hard way. It can be done.
Absolutely. And I've known plenty of people who do it. And it's but you get to meet some great people at places like that who have a much different background than mine, to be sure. But I was very fortunate to count my blessings. And, so I was able to, get through that, and was probably kind of on the kind of studied more on the operations side okay. There. Of course, at West Point, we studied engineering. They can study different things now, but when I was there, it was engineering, was pretty much it. So then I got right into the manufacturing world, and since we're having an honest conversation, it's hopefully of benefit to people. My first experience is I went to a kind of smaller medical products company, which was on a tear and ended up being a hugely successful company. Mm-hmm. And I got recruited by the guy who was the CEO there. They had come to campus, and they were, okay. I got his attention. So myself and another guy got hired. And this was when I made one of the great mistakes of my life. So this guy, who ends up being very, famous in the industry, hugely successful, multi-billionaire, right? He says, we got a couple opportunities. You can either come work directly for me, because you like me, we hit it off, or you can go to this, crappy division that's struggling, and get in a manufacturing role. And me being Mr. Gung-ho, got to go out and lead from the front thing, which is what you learn in the service, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go down and take on that, on that challenge. Bad move. Yeah. A week after I got there, had a big layoff. I got thrown into a position I was patently not ready for. Yeah. And so I, struggled for better part of a year, and they finally threw me out the door for good reason. right? And you live and learn, right? But I look back on that, and here's one of the realities of life that I don't necessarily like. It's just one of them. Proximity to power counts. It just
Good
does.
one. I like it.
If you have a chance to be around, the people with power who are making the decisions, that's a good place to be.
It's a good place to be.
I hate to say it because it's, it has all sorts of political connotations.
It's part of it. It's part of it. Yeah. Hey, the political relationship piece is part of it. This is a good place to really emphasize. Yes, for the listeners, for career advice, working hard is definitely a huge piece of success, but it's not just about that. If you don't have the relationship skills, if you don't have the people skills, the networking skills, the political skills to navigate that piece too, you're only going to make it so far. Right. Yeah.
All true. All true.
You gotta have both. So, okay. So you're moving through your career. So you're calling, an ops guy, leadership guy. You're moving through your career. You're having some success.
Well, I wasn't having success then, but then I got on the operations side of a large super regional bank.
Yeah.
And then I learned that business, which I hated every single minute of.
Did you? Okay.
Every single minute. I hated it. Okay. They're wonderful. They're nice people and all the rest, but I hated every minute of it. But I have family support, and you do what you got to do. Okay.
So by that time you're married, kids. What's the status?
Yeah, I was married. We had just had our third child then. And I have 9 kids now.
Whoa! Are you serious? Wow!
One wife, no twins, no cheating there. So we
how old are they?
Financial pressure is there.
What are the age ranges of the children now, if you don't mind me asking?
Like 20 to 35.
Okay. Are you empty nester, or you still got a couple at the house?
We got really kind of 1 or 2 that, kind of in and out, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. You're probably my age. I'm 56. How old are you?
Yeah, I'm 64.
64. Okay. I tell you, being an empty nester is pretty cool. I like it.
Well, the grandkids are great. So
grandkids are awesome. Yeah. Yeah. How many you got?
7.
Wow. It is a fun holiday at your house, my friend.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so we did that gig, and then a senior guy I had gotten to know, he had left and gone to KPMG on their consulting side, and he got over there and he said, "Hey, you ought to come over here and check this out." And I went out there and met those guys, and absolutely jumped ship. Went to work for KPMG for 3 years.
Okay. Good experience.
What's that?
Great experience. Yep.
Great experience, great people, great company.
Mm-hmm.
Work like a dog, but it wasn't something I was going to do forever, because it's a get on a plane Monday, see you Friday type life. That's not what you're going to do when you're going on 5 and 6 kids. No. So, but it was great for the time that I was there.
Okay.
And you learn a lot. You get a broadened view of the world, and so it was great, and I enjoyed that a lot.
Were you thinking, as you're moving along here, I want to be a C-level guy, I want to run a company someday? Or were you just going through life, working hard and kicking ass, and that wasn't really a goal?
No, absolutely. I did. I wanted to, I wanted to advance and, build businesses is really kind of what I wanted to do. And that's when it kind of came to me. And then I did that for 3 years at KPMG. And then I got into kind of a private equity company where I was doing kind of the operational stuff and managing some assets. And
is this Keating? Is this? Oh, I see. Private capital resource group. Is that?
Well, that was later. This is Republic Financial. And then private capital, we did kind of some of the same stuff. But this is the point where I realized that, I had been stuck in this mindset that I'm an ops guy, because since I was 17 years old, I've been an ops guy.
Yep.
And what I started to feel was I had this, I wanted to get out there and talk to people and be with people. And I just felt like I wanted to be a sales guy. And so I made that transition, which was, difficult, difficult, I suppose, but I was pretty good at it. And that's when I really started to make some real money doing that. Because that partly was ego. Was that when you're in the ops side of a business, especially financial services, you're in the airline business. You only get noticed when you crash, right? And I'm a guy who just I need some positive feedback, right? You call it egotism or whatever, but I need some strokes, and you're not getting strokes in that world. All you get is the stick when things don't go right.
Wow.
Right. And I was money motivated too. I wanted to advance. I wanted to build businesses where I'm not meeting people who are doing deals and are in the deal world and whatnot. I had to get there. And so I had to go be a sales guy, and I turned out to be a really good sales guy. But it wasn't until I was ready for that.
Can we pause there for a second? So Riderflex, besides our podcast, you already know, for a living, like we recruit people for a living, right? We're a recruiting firm. So I recruit candidates all the time. We place people often, and I'm similar. Former ops guys or people that were raised as ops guys that go into sales often are successful because the person that has only been in sales is usually very good at people skills and shaking hands, kissing babies, but they can't execute. They can't follow up. They're not organized. and so if you got an ops guy that is highly organized to follow up and this and that, dots the I's, and can shake hands and kiss babies and close deals, then you have the magic, right? And I'm sure that was a part of the reason you were so successful. You spent 7 years doing that, right? For the HVAC company. Well,
that was this was before then. This is with a couple of private equity type groups, but that's the kind of the story is that I was able to bring my energy and enthusiasm for accomplishing goals, which is what sales is great for, right? Mm-hmm. And you're chasing the carrot, and when you get that, you get a pat on the back, which is what I needed psychologically. Awesome. And so I really enjoyed that, and I was being successful at it, and that's always enjoyable. And so that, was self-reinforcing. And so, let's keep doing that. And then, get me, and I have some ops background, and now I have some, sales background. And then that, opportunity came along on, with this, HVAC company that a guy I'd known before, had worked for before, actually. This company, looks like they needed some help, and we had a couple skills and money to bring to it, and got involved with that company and worked there for a number of years, and with that was middling success. The technology had problems, but you live and learn, and we gave it our best shot, and in the meantime I learned something about this industry or about the
but I want to ask you about Sealy. Were you recruited there?
No, that was the company that I worked. We sold the company to Sealy.
Oh, yeah. I see.
Yeah, we got acquired by.
Now I got you. All right. So so you were still there when Sealy acquired the company.
Yeah.
How did this cannabis? I mean, you would be one of the least likely guys. Just based on your resume, I've seen a lot of people make the jump. I've talked to a lot of people make the jump into cannabis. I'm, 9 children, former West Point guy, grandfather. Like you're not the typical guy to jump over. Talk to me. How did it happen? Walk me through the transition.
Sure. I'd been with this HVAC company, and again, I'd been on a previous board with a couple of guys who were on the board of this company, which was a small, struggling public company up in Boulder that did environmental control for indoor cultivation. Nice. And they say, hey, look, we got nobody on the board or on senior management who knows anything about HVAC and environmental control. Why don't you come on the board? Sure, that makes sense. So I did that because I could speak that language, and so that made a ton of sense.
What was the name of that company?
Surna.
Surna. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Surna is it's the same company I'm with now. It's just that we changed. We spun that off as a sub and renamed the parent as CEA Industries. But
okay. Now I got it. Now I understand how the flow is on your LinkedIn profile. Let me ask you, how did that conversation go? They call you, so these guys. You have a relationship.
I know them.
Yeah, but still, when you talk to your wife the first time in your family, and you're like, you're saying it's HVAC and all this stuff, but it's tied to cannabis. How'd that conversation go? Yeah, how'd that go?
No big deal. right? I mean, here's the fundamental. Here's where you start. I have always been an advocate of the legalization of cannabis for
Oh, you
recreational.
have really
I voted for it in 2012, and primarily it's driven by I hate drug dealers. I want drug dealers to go away. They're evil people. They do terrible things, and I want them to go away. And the only way we're going to get I'm a fatalist. We're not going to talk people out of consuming substances that
Agreed.
some are bad for them. And cannabis isn't really that bad for it. I don't think it's much different than beer, frankly.
Yeah.
But I was always an advocate for that. I have very libertarian views on that. And mainly what I want is, evil drug dealers to go away. I mean, look what they're doing in Mexico and in these other countries around the world, and the horrible things they do to people.
So there was easy conversation with your wife and your family. No big deal. Like she was like, yeah, sure, cool. Everybody was good with it.
Yeah, but I've had that position for a long time.
Were you a cannabis user when you were younger?
No.
Are you now?
No.
Have you ever tried cannabis?
Long time ago.
Okay. All right. Are you okay with your kids using cannabis? They're grown people. They're grown men now. Grown men and women. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it. Like everything. Recreationally. I mean, I drink alcohol recreationally, in very modest quantities, but I do. I don't see there's much difference between that and cannabis.
Worse. It's probably worse. It's probably worse for you than a cannabis, quite frankly.
Well, yeah. Certainly there's an argument to that effect, but I don't. I'm a libertarian fundamentally, right? I mean, does gambling destroy some people's lives? Yes. Do I advocate we close down Las Vegas? No.
Gotcha. Yeah. Would you just curious, I want to ask you this. We don't have to go down this rabbit hole, but would you, if you had the power, would you legalize all drugs across the country?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because of what you said, because all it does is create a criminal empire if you try to stop it, because people are going to do what they want to do.
They're going to do it anyway. And again, don't get me wrong. Some of these things are terrible. They're terrible for people. Okay. Mm-hmm. But we are free. We're a free people. Right now, all I want is people to, accept the consequences of their choices.
Right. Yeah.
You want to use bad things, go ahead. But if you end up dying face down in the gutter, you made that choice. You were all big boys and girls.
I love that.
I don't want that. That's not what God wants for you. But you want to go to Vegas and destroy your life.
It's funny you mentioned that. I had a similar line. I used to tell my wife, I'd say, look, if my neighbor wants to shoot up with heroin and spin around in circles in his backyard until he falls down dead, like, I don't care. But I don't want to, we're not going to stop him from getting heroin if he wants to get heroin. I don't care. If they want to get it, they're going to get it. And they're usually going to get it from bad people who do bad things, just like you said. So yeah, I am generally in agreement. I also think it's funny how, we have the war on drugs, but meanwhile we hand out opioids, like they're candy to people, like it's no big deal. It seems kind of upside down. Okay. So all right. So you didn't really have a problem with it. So when they called you, you're like, yeah, cool. All right. So it was easier conversation for you maybe than some others, even though you weren't a consumer, still aren't a consumer. But you didn't have a problem with it. So pretty smooth transition for you, or at least socially a smooth transition with your family, I guess.
Yeah, we're not plant touching. Let's be clear. Our businesses,
understood.
We essentially do licensed engineering and environmental control stuff. Yeah.
No doubt about it. So you've been touching the industry now for 6, 7. How long? 7 years? 8 years?
Getting on 5 years. Getting on 5 years since I came on the board.
How's it going? That's a big question.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Yeah, it's been. I just reflect on. We're public. I just reflect on our filings, and I came in late in 2018. Company was in. Company had some tough years. It went public in 2014 through reverse merger. it struggled, and 2018 was, their best. They'd grown some, but continued to lose a lot of money. I came in end of 2018. The previous CEO was a great guy, just wrong job for him. He just quit. He didn't need the brain damage. So I came in. We cleaned some house. I got some stuff in order. Got really focused on the sales and marketing side. We had a 60% growth year in 19, first profitable year. Things went great. And that was fabulous. The industry was hitting its stride. And so, we rode that wave and were able to really hit it that year. And then, of course, the darn hook COVID hits the following year. And that was tough. We're at the tail end of this industry. It's one thing for somebody to walk into a dispensary and drop, $50 on, a vape tube or whatever. On our end of the industry, somebody's making the decision to invest $10 or $20 million in a very sophisticated indoor cultivation facility. Now, if you're sitting there in early 2020 and you're about to stroke a $5 million check to get something going, that might give you some pause all of a sudden. Where's this whole thing going? And that's what happened. And the industry had a dramatic slowdown early in the year. But I knew it would pick up because retail sales continued to and indeed blossomed, right? And you had some good years, good year there in 2020 for the industry wide. And indeed, it did pick up in the back half of the year, and we booked some good projects. And sales were dropped dramatically from the previous year, but we started to book some more projects. And in 21, had a pretty good year, bounced really hard. We're almost as strong as 19, and then 2022, the industry started to slow down again. Not as many states going legal, and we're on the construction side. So what really drives the bus for us is new projects, new facilities going to be built. That's generally driven by states going legal, and now they're going to have to grow it within the state. And so people build new cultivation facilities.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, before I ask you a bunch more questions on the industry, now's probably a good time to do a quick elevator pitch or overview of CEA Industries for the listeners. And by the way, it is ceaindustries.com. And Tony McDonald, just like it sounds, can be found on LinkedIn, chairman and CEO there. Give us a quick overview, CEA Industries elevator pitch, and then I want to ask you some more questions about the industry, if you don't mind.
Sure. Our primary operating subsidiary is a company called Surna. Been in the industry since 2006, and what we do is we provide licensed engineering services and environmental control equipment for indoor cultivation. Primarily, it's been cannabis facilities throughout the U.S. and Canada. In the last couple of years, we've been moving more to the non-cannabis side, doing indoor cultivation, like vertical farming, leafy greens, other plants. So our skills are readily transferable to that space as well. And that space is growing well as well. So we've moved over there. So we do the engineering and put together the equipment and work in conjunction with a construction project to bring that equipment to bear on what is really a very challenging technical challenge, where you're trying to control the environment inside one of these facilities very closely on both temperature and humidity. And we kind of joke that in indoor cultivation is like a data center with a swimming pool in the middle. It's got huge heat load from all the equipment in there, the lights and whatnot. But then you also have these plants that are transpirating humidity, and you got to get that out and control that. So you have to control these things very precisely. So it's a very interesting environmental control challenge for mechanical engineers to get a grip on.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure. So you are you manufacture the equipment, or you install the equipment and you service it from an engineering and consulting perspective, or no?
No, here's what we do. You come to us, you want to build a facility. We'll do the architectural work, kind of design the facility, do the licensed MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, engineering. We'll provide all that. and then we will line up all the equipment that you're going to need to get that. And we sell some lighting and benching as well, but the bulk of it's the environmental control stuff. And so we'll source that from a variety, because it takes a lot of equipment, right? So we have some that has our label on it, and we have we'll source big train chillers, for example.
Okay.
We're not going to make a 100-ton train chiller.
Okay.
So we source equipment from a variety of folks. The objective, though, is that we're the pros at figuring out what you need to achieve what you want to achieve as a grower, and our objective is to put that ability in the hands of the grower, so they can decide. Because everybody's got their own little secret sauce about how to grow, to give them that power, and so that's our objective.
I see. And then your team works with the construction crew to install it and put it in and all of that?
We do. It's a construction project. We work in conjunction with general contractors and subcontractors. We don't do the install, but we work with them, and then we start the equipment up and make sure they're trained on how to use it and that it's running. And then we do it. And we've done this, for several hundred.
Okay. Is there a SaaS play in here, a tech play, software that people use to navigate and monitor all this once it's installed, or no?
Oh yeah, there's you have to have a control system, which is a well-established technology in HVAC. We provide those as well, and so that's the ongoing control of the facility, and that's automated. Like, you got guys, I want this room to be this temperature and humidity at this time, and then later in the cycle, I'll change it, and so it's all automated, and you can control those things. And again, the cultivators are out there; they're all trying to figure this out. I tell people, I said, look, if you decided tomorrow that you wanted to become a corn farmer, okay, you can go to UC Davis, Texas A&M, Iowa State, whatever, right? And they have 100 years of PhD research on how to grow corn. Nobody knows how to grow cannabis because it's not been legal. And so these guys are all out there trying to figure it out.
Right.
That's the truth. And so they're all over the place, and they're doing their best. And, we don't tell them how to do that. We want to give them the tools to do it.
Is there an ongoing business model where you're continued to be paid by the people that used you in the beginning, I guess, is what I was trying to get after with the SaaS question? Or no, once they're done, once the facility's up and running, you're done, you're out?
Yeah, by and large, we're done. Of course, we provide ongoing service, but by and large, that's the end of our involvement.
What percentage of your revenue is cannabis versus non-cannabis right now? It sounds like you're trying to push you're trying to diversify your revenue stream a little bit by going non-cannabis. It sounds like. What's your percentage split right now?
It's the non-cannabis is pretty small. We're just starting to make that transition. So it's still pretty small.
Is that that's a strategic move by you and the board because cannabis in general has slowed?
Well, not only in response to that, we started that a couple of years ago because there's also a good growth path for that technology. And so there's some very exciting things happening in indoor cultivation. And I think a bit less so in the U.S. because we have by far the most favorable growing conditions in the world. And so, we have, inexpensive inputs of land, labor, water, power. Okay. And it's easy to grow stuff here. That's why we're the breadbasket of the world. The world looks different if you live in the Middle East or some other places around the world where it's much more difficult to grow things. And so they're going to be much more amenable to growing things indoors, which is more expensive, but it's more resource efficient for water, so. But
are you selling? Okay, all right.
Year round, and
are you talking
out in this country? I mean, do we really need to grow lettuce in California and truck it all the way to Maine?
Yeah, good point. So we're talking bedding plants, we're talking tomato houses, we're talking all this kind of stuff that might have some indoor facilities.
Yeah, it's leafy greens, and they're doing the high value products, peppers and tomatoes, and stuff like that. Is where it's starting. Microgreens, do you find really cool stuff?
I have been told by people on the podcast before, and by the way, I worked in the bedding plant industry for a short time with a huge operation in Fort Lupton that sold bedding plants to Lowe's and Walmart, so I'm somewhat familiar with the industry. It's tough to sell to farmers. They have, they're very dug in on their ways, especially if they're second, third, fourth generation. And man, you try to sell them something new, and those are tough conversations, Tony.
Well, they're in a tough business.
you got to build trust is what I learned with most of them. If you build relationships and you build trust, you have I had better chances of succeeding than just, walking in and doing a little sales pitch presentation on the slide deck. This 70-year-old third generation farmer, he's like, I've been doing it this way forever. I don't need you.
Well,
what's going on? Thank you for that overview of CEA, by the way. So, I watched the stock. By the way, I looked at your own stock, of course, before the call. I hear noise, cannabis companies slowing, stock prices dropping, investors irritated, just in general, the cannabis market, I don't know, for lack of a better word, becoming sluggish. I don't know. What are your thoughts? What's going on with the industry right now from a 30,000 foot perspective? What do you think?
Well, we're on the tail end of this whole thing, right? With new construction for these facilities, and that has slowed. There's no question about it. What you've gotten overbuilding in certain states, right? So now you have oversupply, and now you have a reduction in prices.
Margins.
Well, now people are losing money.
Yep. Now people are losing money.
They grow less, and they don't need new facilities. And so if you look at, there's several companies, the large public supply house, and that would be people like Hydrofarm, GrowGen, Hawthorne division of Scotts Miracle-Gro. If you follow their sales over the last year, they're, half or less of what they were a year or two ago. And their stock prices have come down commensurately, not Scott's, but the other guys. And, it's just been a train wreck, but you've not, the whole thing, the whole industry kind of peaked. It seemed like in early 2021.
Yeah.
November of 2020, the election, Democrats win big. Rah rah.
Right. Everybody thought it was going to explode. Yeah, we're going to legalize it federally. It's going to go nuts.
Absolutely. They're going to fix all this by January and February of 21. All the stocks are rocking and rolling. They're going through the roof. And then what happens? Nothing.
And
so I got no crystal ball. Okay. But if you look at the federal legislative landscape and you think, well, let's see, they couldn't get a watered down safe banking bill through a lame duck Democratic Congress with a Democratic president. Okay, if you're not going to get there with that, when is it going to happen, right? So I'm no optimist that that's going to happen. I think what you'll see is a continued, incremental rollout across states, and the states will get their act together, right? They'll get the licensing and what. I mean, ask a lot of these states, right, to have this whole new, product category that they're regulating. And so there's a lot of rules there, and they're trying to get that all in place. That's all coming together. Just a little bit slower than we'd like, or it has been in the past.
It definitely has moved slower with some of the legalization. I definitely think, I'm not an expert. You're way more of an expert on the topic than me, but I think oversaturation is a killer. I grew up in Oklahoma, live in Colorado now, and I grew up in a little town southwest of Oklahoma City called Chickasha, Oklahoma, population about, 18,000 people. 18,000 people. Guess how many pot shops they got? Just take a guess.
10.
30.
30. Oh, well, Oklahoma's unlimited license state. So
exactly. I drove through town. I get out to my mom's place. She has a little farm out in the country. I get out to my mom's place. I'm like, Mom, are you kidding me? Like 75% of these guys are going to be out of business in 24 months. I mean, there's just no way. I mean, I'm usually not a fan of governance around limiting licenses and things. Like normally I would vote against that, but damn, I don't know. I think it's definitely part of the problem right now.
That's what you got, but I tell you, if you're in a limited license state and you've got one of those licenses, it could be a license to print money.
Exactly.
It's good, right?
What's the answer? What's the answer? Somewhere in between? I don't know. But I don't know. you know?
Well, yeah, look, we're early on in this thing, right? I mean, you've started this whole industry from whole cloth. Well, not quite whole cloth, because you had a big, the big black and gray markets out there. So, yeah, it's in transition.
Yeah.
It's just going to take a while.
Yeah. Do you think, and I know we're running up on our time here. We'll try to ask you a few more questions. I'm sure you've been asked this before. If it got approved federally at some point, let's just say prohibition, ends, will giant pharmaceutical companies and Philip Morris and Scott's and whoever, will they all just wipe all these little people out and there'll be a few big ones left? Like, what do you think will happen?
Yeah, good question. I think there's a couple pieces to it. One is if it just goes federally legal, where they say, okay, it's descheduled, it's federally legal, make it like alcohol, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but there's a second tier here, okay? And that second tier is, what level of control would they give the states? And will there be interstate commerce or indeed international commerce? Because what you have right now is that there's no such thing as the federal cannabis market. There isn't. Okay, right. There are individual state markets. Okay, some are limited license, some are free-for-alls, right? And so each state is different. And so if you made it federally legal, now you can do it any place. Can you transport it any place? The states aren't going to be enthused about that because they're making a lot of money on this stuff, right? And so if you suddenly if you thought, okay, they're going to have totally legal and totally have interstate commerce. Okay, then you're going to completely rationalize this industry. There aren't going to be 800 little grows in Colorado. There's going to be some monster grows in California, Texas, South Carolina, something like that, right? There's going to be monster grows that have vast economies of scale. And that's what's going to happen. That's what would happen, I think. You don't have a Budweiser plant in every state.
Right. No, I totally agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, you're not going to do that. It's going to completely rationalize the industry. Then the question is, will you be able to, you're going to have international commerce. There's some very
if they let it go international, then everybody's just going to build a bunch of giant facilities and farms, overseas and take the business away from the U.S.
Yeah, well, there's some quality folks down, Colombia, other places that are legitimate, that know what they're doing, and they just flood the place with that. Why would you grow it here at the prices we have to pay?
The black market guys that are still selling it illegally, they probably love the fact that some of these legal cannabis companies are suffering right now, right? They're probably sitting around with their cigars, celebrating, high-fiving each other like, look, they're suffering. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know any of those black market guys, just for the record.
Yeah. The states certainly are not, don't seem to be trying to bring their business to an end.
No, right? They don't. Let me ask you this real quick. Psilocybin. So you already said you'd legalize all drugs. So I guess you're good with psilocybin, mushrooms, whatever. You voted, or you voted for it probably. Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah. You good with it? I'm guessing you haven't tried mushrooms if you haven't tried cannabis.
Right. This is interesting. I mean, I don't know much about that space. Okay. But I've run into folks, and I think it's really interesting what they're doing, because the people who are in that space have come at it from a completely different angle. They're I've talked to some folks, and they're doing it it's not from a recreational angle. It's from a therapeutic angle.
Yes. Big time.
Right. And so what it seems to be good at, and in fact, I read a great book, perhaps you've read it. It's called Your Mind on Drugs, which, it's a great book. And it's written by a journalist who decided to research psychoactive drugs. And there are like 5 of them, right? Psilocybin, and there's the best one's the toad, right? And so not only does he write about these, but he takes a trip on each one, which is just delightful.
Oh, I got to read
it. It's a great book. It's really quite entertaining. But what these things do is they don't seem to be really recreational, like beer or other intoxicating agents.
It's more about health, mental health. Yep.
That's right. It appears to be able to rewire your brain. So they're starting out in the therapeutic side, where they're saying, look, we want to be able to have you come in and, you've got a cigarette addiction, what have you. And what this is going to do is we're going to put you on a trip with limited quantity of LSD, and it's going to rewire your brain. which is what it appears to do, and to rewire some of these things that that are stuck, I guess is the way I'd kind of describe it. And
That's
so
the way I understand it.
Strictly from the legal perspective and not from a recreational perspective.
You don't happen to know, so Del Jolly, good friend of mine, he's in business with Jake Plummer for that company called Umbo, which is the psilocybin thing they're rolling out. I don't know if you know that company.
Don't know about that one.
But Del was on the podcast. I'll send you a link to it. We interviewed him. Fascinating interview about the whole thing. And Del keeps telling me, he's like, you need to come journey with me. And I was like, man, okay, yeah, but I'm scared. I'm kind of scared. I'm kind of nervous. Well, what's the word I'm looking for? I respect and admire the fact that you are doing this at your age, 64. You're super young. By the way, you look like you're in great shape, but you're 64 and you're tackling not only an industry that has hit a speed bump, but you're running a company that, is, that has also had some speed bumps, which is all super stressful, especially if it's a public company. So I admire what you're doing. It takes grit, it takes determination. A lot of guys at your age would be like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go over here and play some golf. So I respect it, my friend. I highly respect it, really, on what you're doing. How do you keep your energy up?
Yeah, I've always been pretty active. I
look like it.
I work out 7 days a week and always have. And,
okay.
So I'm fortunate. I got, been some good genes but I've done my best to take care of myself and,
What's your workout? What are you treadmill, a couple miles, you do some cardio, some weight? What are you doing?
Yeah, I run 3 days a week, 15, 20 miles or so. And then I lift 3 days a week, at a local gym. So you got to do the resistance. And then I do, and I really do that just as kind of a base so I can do the things I enjoy, be it mountain biking. I've gotten into pickleball lately.
Really?
That's a ton of fun. Really keeps you moving, and it's a good tactics game. Can't play tennis anymore, got the tennis elbow stuff, but that's fun.
Have you tried the e-bike? Have you tried the mountain e-bike yet or no?
I have done. I was on a mountain e-bike last year with some family members, and they're wonderful.
Dude, I have one. I have a mountain e-bike. I take it up to the mountains with me. I fucking love it. I mean, are you kidding me? And I don't care if the real mountain bikers give me a hard time or they call me wimpy. I don't give a shit. I mean, I'm like, look, I can ride forest trails for 5-6 hours. I bought an extra battery. I bought an extra battery that I put on the back.
Yeah. I mean, I used to get up, I used to go out there climbing Mount Falcon straight up the front. That's a 3-mile grind up. I used to ride that, that kind of stuff just to do it and prove I could do it. Right. But not anymore.
One more health question, then we'll wrap it up. Have you tried the T shots, the testosterone shots that a lot of males our age are getting now on a regular basis? Have you tried it?
Yeah, I tried the it's a tea supplement called Bio Tea.
But a pill or a shot? Pill or shot?
These were inserts.
Oh.
They're like a thing they put in your hip.
Oh.
And it disperses into your body over a period of like 3 months.
Oh. Did it raise your levels? Did it raise your levels or not?
It didn't. I don't know. It didn't really make a huge difference for me. Because I'm not real T-short, so.
Well, I went in. My 30-year-old son. He's like, Dad, you got to do this. Dad, you got to do this. He's like, all the guys at the gym over 50 are on testosterone shots. I'm like, okay, all right, great. I'll go look at it. I scored like a 391 or no, 319, which is pretty fucking low, I think. Because the lady's like, yeah, you need to be at 800 or 900. And I said, okay, give me a shot. And so I started taking the shots. I'm like 12 weeks in. I love it. I feel great. I feel great. My wife likes it too for the after hours.
Sure.
Tony, it's been a pleasure. Been a pleasure chatting with you. I really appreciate you sharing your story on the Riderflex podcast.
Yeah, Steve, it's a pleasure with you as well. Nice to chat and get to chat with you. And I hope that my own hiccups and It's funny. I grew up since I grew up in the military. The military is just this, this steady upward climb, right?
Yeah.
The business life is not like that, at least not for most people, right? It's up and down. And what's that one song say? I can't remember. So it's something to the effect that, if this is where I'm going, why do I have to keep, zigzagging around? And I've wondered the same thing. But you keep pressing on, and you hit obstacles. You just keep
pushing
swinging,
forward,
right? And
yes, keep pushing forward.